these unfortunate events happen. We have 82,000 people that come to work in Joint Base San Antonio every single day. And just like any public and in the community, we have some one-offs. And that's what I would consider this, a one-off. It is not a terrorism situation.
Air Force Brigadier General Bob Labrota earlier today discussing a murder-suicide at Lackland Air Force Base in Texas. Not much is known about what led up to this event involving an airman and his commander, but the increase in violence on military bases raises concerns about whether our servicemen and women are receiving the right kind of support. For more, let's welcome in a pair of veterans running for the United States Congress. From Georgia, Dr. Paul Broun, and from Florida, Brian Mast. Gentlemen, we appreciate your time. And Brian, let me start with you. Military bases have highly visible security. But in view of what happened today at Lackland, is enough being done to protect servicemen, both enlisted and officers, on these bases?
Well, we've had these conversations before, especially as it surrounded the Chattanooga shooting and other events on different bases. And you can always say there can be more to be done. The service members on base, largely, they're not allowed to carry weapons, especially personally owned weapons. So that's one of the things that could be a part of the conversation. But as far as those entry and exit points of the bases, I think they're very well protected.
Dr. Brown, let me talk to you about this. Brian touched on this. The irony is we have military who aren't able to wear sidearms on the bases, correct?
That is correct, JD, and it's absolutely wrong. Who is most trained to be able to handle weapons in a safe manner is the U.S. military personnel, and we saw what happened in Fort Hood, Texas, as a matter of fact, a few years ago, and it's because all of these gun-free zones have become free killing zones. People need to be able to protect themselves, and certainly our military personnel do as well, and having the ability to have arms is absolutely critical. When I was deployed to Afghanistan in 2012, every single military personnel walking around the base at Camp Leatherneck, where I was based, as well as at Fort Operating Base, Fob Shukvani, I had my own sidearm. Everybody was wearing M4s or M16s and or sidearms, and everybody was safe. The military bases need to be safe, but the military personnel need to be able to protect themselves. But also, JD, there's another issue that comes to rise here, and that's the mental health issues. Our veterans are not getting the kind of help that they need. Our military personnel are not either.
And I'm glad you brought that up, Paul, because that opens up the whole discussion about the VA and VA health care. And we're hearing this story now that supervisors are being accused of telling fellow workers they should falsify information about how long veterans need to wait on a list before they get medical care. Paul, I thought this was handled by the bill passed through the Senate and the House last year. Why haven't we seen better results?
Well, we've got to hold the workers in the VA system accountable, and because of the federal unions and collective bargaining, we're unable to do so. We've got to make some major changes, and I have a platform. People can go on my website, Paul Broun, is B-R-O-U-N, paulbroun.com/veterans, and they will see our platform. We have to hold these bureaucrats within the VA system accountable, and we have to make some major changes, and that's what I'm eager to do. As a medical doctor, as a veteran myself, I understand how critical it is. It's a national security issue.
Exactly. And another guy who can speak with special eloquence about this is Brian Mast, running for Congress in Florida. Brian, firsthand experience for you being wounded in theater, subsequently recovering from your wounds, but life-changing. So you saw VA healthcare and you've seen it up close and personal. What are your priorities, and how are we going to get things done?
It's not hollow words to say that the people going to be seen at the VA need to be treated as they're the most important person every time they walk in that door. We're talking about people that were trudging through the rice paddies of Vietnam, offering their life in defense of this country. and they're not getting it. Even since since the news that broke in 2014 about the falsified wait list, I think we can largely say that VA care has not improved. And that's because it's still a single-payer, third-party model for healthcare. And until we move away from that in the VA, it's not going to improve. We have the Veterans Choice Card out there. Not very many veterans get to use that. Unless veterans are allowed to have those dollars follow them to wherever it is they want to be seen for their healthcare, the system isn't going to improve.
And we're even hearing, Brian, that with the institution of choice, when vets go outside the VA, the doctors in the private sector have not been getting paid. So there is some sort of bureaucratic inertia it stands in stark contrast to what you expect for war fighters in theater. How on earth, Paul Broun, did the VA just get filled with this bureaucratic molasses?
Well, it's the problem throughout the whole federal government system where people cannot be held accountable and held responsible to do their jobs. And we have to change that dynamics. In fact, when I get to Congress, I will introduce a bill to stop collective bargaining for all federal employees. That will be a huge step in the right direction. And Brian's absolutely correct. In fact, I went down to the Oakwood Clinic here in Hall County just last week. And then this week, I was down at the VA hospital in Decatur, Georgia, just talking to veterans about the problems that they have. They don't like the choice program because they can't get the kind of care because of just that issue that you said. Most doctors cannot accept it because the VA doesn't pay them very well, and it's a prolonged payment at that. So we have to change the whole system from top to bottom.
And gentlemen, we will have to call it quits right now. That old four-letter word time gets in the way. Brian Mast in Florida, Dr. Paul Broun in Georgia, good luck in your races. Thanks to you both for your service in Afghanistan. After the break, more terror arrests in Brussels. Pete Hoekstra and Ryan Morrow join us to talk about what's next.